Hey everybody, this is Gardenguy, Benj, and I'm out here at some raised bed gardens, and I wanted to give you some tips and tricks for how to really reclaim beds for the spring. I know that a lot of us over the winter time and spring and fall, we're just like, okay, don't have to worry about the gardens anymore, and then spring comes around and boom, you get something like this where it's just overwhelming. You have so many weeds, so much so much stuff to do, it just feels overwhelming. It's like, okay, I'm not going to do a garden this year because of the weeds. Now, you don't have to do that, okay? Now, the previous videos I've made have detailed, described a way of gardening that is better than just going in and tilling every year. There's a way of gardening and farming or doing landscapes to where every year it gets better and better. You're not actually fighting against the weeds every year. Every year the weeds are getting less and less, and you're actually improving the soil every year. It's a method called no dig or no till. You may have heard of it, but essentially what we're doing in the no dig no till method is mimicking, replicating what we see out in nature and bring it into the garden by having this thick layer of nice organic decomposing material. So right here we see that we have these that actually happening. We have a lot of material. Look at that, I just pulled a worm up right at the top there. So this is some good stuff, but right here is what happened is last year, I'm sure some of these chickweed and henbit, they thrived and they did good. They had their vegetables, but then these came up and they dropped a whole bunch of seeds. The key is to reclaim an area and then keep seeds from dropping. There's two main types of weeds. There's annual weeds, which is like all these. Annuals usually produce a whole bunch of seeds because they don't come back from the roots, whereas perennial weeds do. And if I can find like that's a wild violet, that's going to come back every year. And then if you see like dandelion, or there's all kinds of weeds that come back every year from the roots. Those ones are sometimes tricky to take out, but once you get them out, you're good. These though, on the other hand, the trick with these as far as annual weeds is to make sure and put a layer of mulch down every fall, about 2 inches thick, and then all winter long it's breaking down. So, but right now, if this is the situation you're in, if you're overwhelmed with your weeds and your garden beds, this is what you want to do. Go in and pull all of them out. Sometimes you can even just go in with a weed eater and whack them all down. And then after that, come in and you're going to want to put down a nice layer, 2 to 3 inches of wood chips or some kind of compost or material that's going to keep the new growth from coming back up. Now, if you do have perennial weeds, do your research and figure out what kind of weeds you have. If you have perennial weeds, then those are going to pop through. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and tell you those are going to pop through 2 or 3 inches of wood chips or mulch. So that to control that kind of thing, you're going to really need to kind of start over and do a thick layer of at least 6 inches, if not up to 10 or 12 inches of material. And then you can't really plant into that. So if you have some crazy weeds, you may have to consider some perennial weeds. You may want to consider like a weed fabric for a year to get it to where those roots of the perennials right now they have reserves from last year. The sun hit them all last year. Let's say you have a bunch of whole bunch of like dandelion. Those roots have a whole bunch of carbohydrates and energy from the previous year, and they're going to survive a lot of stuff. They need time where they're covered up to just die off. So, but hopefully you have this situation where it's mostly annuals, and I would say probably 80 to 90% of you guys, that's your situation. You have a whole bunch of weeds that just pop up every spring, and it's just overwhelming. What you want to do is you don't need to till it, okay? If you have a garden bed like this, it's nicer, then go ahead and just start pulling them out, cleaning it up, and you'll be good. You'll be coast is clear, Just get all those out of there, and then start off with another layer of compost, which is what we're going to put down. And then in the fall, put down wood chips or some kind of layering so that those seeds that were in there are covered up. Isn't that crazy? That's like one plant. Shoop. Talk about prolific. 1, 2 plants. Crazy. It's like a carpet. She's pulling it back. Chickweed actually is really good for chickens. Chickens love it. We can actually eat it too, just gotta make sure it's chickweed. Look at this one. It's gonna be fun. No. Yeah, look at that. That's a big old thing. I mean, this is the best compost I've seen all year. Kaboom! All the material has been dumped. Spreading time has begun. The key to rejuvenating old raised beds is you want to take out the weeds and cover with beneficial, awesome compost and then wood chips or some kind of compost on top. So we took these weeds out and we came back in with about 2 inches of high quality, really awesome horse manure compost. That's about 3 or 4 years old, and we put all that in there. That's all actually going to squish down once it rains, but oh my goodness, the fact that I'm seeing worms in here, there were worms all throughout it, that tells me that this is aged compost and it's high quality, going to be doing some good stuff for our plants. And then I'll come in with 1 to 2 inches of mulch. That's the quick tutorial for how to reclaim beds like this. It doesn't have to be stressful, doesn't have to be crazy. Just come in, and like I said, if they're annual weeds, weed them down and then cover up with compost and then some wood chips, or some aged wood chips is even better. But if you don't have annual ones, you have perennial ones, you may think about doing a landscape fabric for a year, and then cut holes and put your bigger plants in there, like strawberries, peppers. You can put some squash and they'll spread out. They'll be just fine. Then you can take the fabric away next year. But there are ways to, without being stressing out, reclaim beds like this. And hopefully this video was helpful for you guys, because I mean really the key to this is the compost and then the wood chips. People think, oh my goodness, the beds are covered up, I gotta get rid of the beds. No, it's not the bed's problem. So the key to these beds and reclaiming them is really take away what doesn't need to be there and then build on the top of the soil with compost and wood chips or another source of organic material on top that's going to keep that moisture content in the soil, and it's going to actually benefit the nutrient content of the soil over time. So guys, thanks for watching the Gardenguy channel. Here we are having fun out here. It's springtime. I love it. It's good stuff. See you next time on the Gardenguy channel. God bless.